Lauren took one on the chin this weekend for the team.
For the cause.
And now I'm looking at my producer, and I'm thinking he named it the thing he wasn't supposed to. But I'm not sure.
No, I named it
Okay, okay.
Are we live now? Are we live now? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Okay, now I see it.
All right, invite me to the party. Come
I'm
on.
trying. I don't see it.
Thought Herbert just taking out his anger more on us.
How's that?
Put it with a bunch of curse words, just doom the show, enter his dark spiral. Herb had a bad weekend, everyone, but it's all right. We're gonna send him positive vibes.
Yeah. We all kind of had a rough weekend.
I had a great weekend.
Evan had a great weekend.
I always have a great weekend. My Thursday to Sunday, I went hard. Starting with a Thursday night party here. For some reason, got very drunk by myself Friday night.
Oh,
No, I enjoy those.
okay.
Those are my little excursions.
Yeah, I also was at a pretty amazing party. It's the same party. Coincidentally, it's not like I invited Evan or anything. Here in the Market Basket, we raged and raved and had a grand old time with our friends from the New Alliance community. Shout out to them.
I'm very sorry I didn't bring any alcohol. I promise next time I will provide. But
There
thank
was-
you to everyone who let me steal your beers.
Yeah, there's a lot of beer going around, a lot of sharing, a lot of caring, a lot of old friends and new friends. We saw city council candidates getting down like you haven't seen before.
Yeah, but we can't reveal who they were.
Right,
That's just-
undisclosed city
Yep.
council candidates.
Just
partying.
like Pete Buttigieg, we're all under non-disclosure agreement, so we can't talk about
Oh, I didn't sign anything.
it. Yeah, you did. Did you invite me to the party? Come on.
There we go. Right, I'm inviting. Okay, sorry for the delay, everyone. I still haven't worked out what to look at when we start. There we go.
I mean, if the Boston elections team went a little bit slower, we almost didn't have a show tonight.
You're right.
Thank God.
All right, I'm sharing it. Let's get this started.
All right.
Anyway, I'm about to tell a story. Sorry for the delay. All right, can everybody see? Let's see if you guys can see what happened to me this weekend. So here's a public service announcement. Watch out for black ice, people, because I did a serious face plant Saturday night and really messed up my chin. Get a nice close-up angle of that. Evan was there to witness it.
I was.
I fell up a hill.
And I'm really sorry I didn't catch you in time. I was just too focused on the great story you were telling.
I was literally saying, I was saying the long arc of history curves towards,
Boom!
and then I face planted into the sidewalk. So apparently, in my world, the long arc of history curves towards the sidewalk. You could call that justice. You could call that street justice. But when the roads rise up to meet you, friends, just make sure it's not the sidewalk sneaking up to smack you in the face. But yeah, now that's out of the way. Nobody beat me. I beat myself.
You handled it like a champ, though.
I think I was laughing the whole time. I was just happy I didn't break a tooth.
You were convinced you did, though.
Yeah.
You thought for a while.
Yeah. Nothing hurts like in my mouth right now, so I guess that means I'm fine.
That's a win.
Yeah. So it's been that kind of weekend, you know.
Yeah.
I had a pretty nasty cold. I've been chugging that orange cough syrup stuff, and that probably had something to do with why I fell into the sidewalk that night.
Definitely didn't have any other liquids or substances, so it had to have been the cough syrup.
Yeah, well, I definitely didn't do anything illegal, but I am allowed to have beer, and apparently you shouldn't drink beer and cough syrup at the same time.
Yeah, that's on the label. I told you to read it, but you said no.
It'll be fine. It's just beer. But either way, we laughed it off. It was fine. Went back and enjoyed our weekend, or at least you did. I worked. And then we got a lot to talk about today, though. There's been a bunch of breaking news, a bunch of developing stories from friends, family, countrymen, comrades, and we also have some like renters issues to talk about again, which is nice. We're kind of going back to our roots here, but we're going to talk about, what is it, redlining?
Lots of redlining
Lots of
today.
redlining
And then
today.
I wasn't going to touch this, but it just flowed so great. We're going to talk about redlining. We're going to talk about first in Boston, then you'll zoom out a little bit because this all comes from federal policies. But then we're going to go right back to Charlie Baker, Massachusetts, and how it all ties together. But before we pitch to that, 30-second update on the Boston City Council election.
Yes, right. Like maybe like an hour before we got here, we got the news that the recount is over for Boston City Council at large seat number 4, and Julia Mejia has been declared the winner by one vote.
Every door
One vote.
counts.
Every vote counts.
So they had to conduct a hand recount of volunteers over 3 days, or was it 4? Looking at my producer now. Or was it 3 days or 4?
Well, actually, the process started on Thursday, where they counted the ballots in every single Warren precinct, made sure that the count was accurate on the amount of ballots that we were holding, and then the actual tallying up started on Saturday.
So they had a hand count just to make sure, like they had enough cards in the deck that number matched.
Yep. They
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The first step is counting every single ballot, and then on Saturday they started tallying up the actual votes, ward by ward, precinct by precinct.
Wow. And now, so I think the end of the actual election, Julia was up by 8. They then counted all the absentee ballots and all of that stuff, and then her lead dropped to 5. And what was the final, according to today, Lauren?
It was one vote.
That is insane.
One vote made the difference between Julia and Alejandra St. Gillian. And so my ward is Ward 22. It's the last ward counted.
Oh, nice. I'm Ward 13.
Yeah. So I was like really, really for a minute, I had forgotten I'd voted for both of them. And I was like, that was my vote. That was my vote. But it wasn't me. It wasn't my vote that counted. I mean,
Kind of did, though.
it kind of did. Yeah, it got us to this point. But there's somebody out there in my neighborhood that voted for Julia and not Alejandra. And I want to shake their hand because Julia's been a great friend to other podcasts that I've been on. Friends with a lot of my other activist friends, and we love her. So we're happy for her, and we just really hope that this sticks and nobody has to go through this anymore, and that we can get an amazing progressive woman on city council to help the team out.
And I'll say 2 things on it. One, let's hope it is over and this doesn't get drawn out to the courts, which may or may not happen. But the second thing is Alejandra would have been a great city council member. I knocked doors for her. She was endorsed by many of the same activist groups and organizing groups throughout Boston that also endorsed Julia. So she's a great candidate as well. And again, this came down to one person's preference. And every canvasser is now going to try to take credit because I dropped lit the night before for Julia in Austin Brighton. I dropped 200 pamphlets. That's at least 6 votes.
Right.
So, but every canvas is going to say that same thing.
Yeah, I just know there's one person out there who voted for Julia and Althea Garrison.
Nice.
And thank you.
Hey, you know what? People vote for some funny reasons. But okay, that's where it is now. I think we're going to have, are we allowed to say who our special guest is for next week?
Yeah, we can announce it. Speaking of Austin Brighton and Ward 22, special guest, Lee Nave Jr. Is going to be on next week talking about some renters issues and tenant protections. Our favorite topic.
And I'm going to make him talk about what was it like being a candidate for the first time, his thoughts on the future of the Boston City Council.
He can talk about whatever he wants, really.
He can. And, he's accepted a job with Liz Breeden.
That's right.
Yep, he's going to be her policy advisor for Austin Brighton. So we're definitely going to talk around strict policy for AB. Because Harvard's going after that land hard. And I have some thoughts about it.
Yeah, I'm sure, hopefully, they do too. And hopefully we all align. We're going to talk about a few other issues tonight, too, actually. Speaking of other topics, I do want to be another friend of the show. Rod Weber had some breaking news this weekend and some crazy shenanigans that we would love to get into and discuss if he's watching. Probably call in later. We're also going to talk about a major win. Well, it's not really. It's actually a pretty minor win in terms of WEMF and the decision on making that building a landmark in Cambridge. That's, as a lot of you may know, where I come from, where we come from. It was our old home, and it's one of the reasons I hate developers now. So we can talk about that too. But let's get started with this redlining, because that's what's headlining.
Ooh. Now, how long did you actually have that written down? Yeah.
Was it that good?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Thanks.
That was pre-planned, but that's okay. I'll give it to you spontaneity. All right, we're going to discuss redlining now, especially in Boston. So the reason for this is there's an exhibit, actually. I think it's by the Sam Adams and JP, the brewery, and it's put on by our Partners in Crime City Life, and it's just an exhibit about redlining in Boston. And I'm going to let the first video tee it up a little bit, and then Lauren and I will kind of clean it up. So this is taken from an interview, and I'm always trying to cite the people I steal from, WGBH, concerning the exhibit for redlining in Boston. Herb, do we have clip number 1 ready?
We sure do.
All right, let's kick it off.
Undesirable. April DeSimone is part of a team that produced this exhibit on the history of how neighborhoods like Roxbury were redlined. In the 1930s, the federal government created color-coded maps. They were a guideline for banks. Blue and green meant a neighborhood was a safe place for banks to back loans. Red was high risk, something determined largely by who lived there.
In the survey, you have the word Negro, asking what is the percentage of Negroes that live in this area.
Foreign-born residents, Irish, Italians, Jews, also reduced a neighborhood's value. But after World War II, their status changed, and they joined an exodus from the city to the suburbs, where home ownership helped create the country's middle class. Meanwhile, federal guidelines continued to promote racial segregation.
If a neighborhood is to retain stability, it is necessary that property shall continue to be occupied by the same social and racial classes.
These policies, she says, not just in Boston, but urban centers nationwide,
not of the white or Caucasian race,
answer a question that resonates today.
Why are we in a hyper-segregated America?
Redlining, she says, not only excluded people from owning and potentially profiting from a home, but confined them to areas of concentrated poverty and little investment. Until recently.
As you see, there's tons of development happening all around here.
Alex Ponte-Capellain is a housing rights organizer. He grew up here in Jamaica Plains, Eggleston Square, a once redline neighborhood where more than a third of the residents make less than $25,000 a year.
This building here, rents are going to look like $4,000 to $5,000 even for a 3-bedroom.
And so for the people who've lived here for generations, by and large.
Okay, I wanted people to hear how much the rent for some places in JP are going to be. I forgot I purposely let that go a little bit. $4,000 to $5,000 for a 2-bedroom. But just to recap that, so redlining was exactly as it sounds. 1930s, the federal government decided to tell banks that they will insure mortgages if people default on their mortgages, but they're only going to insure them in certain zones. And the way they'd established what zones would they insure and which zones they say they wouldn't was they asked how many black people are in your neighborhood. And then if you had a certain amount of black people, they drew with literally a red marker, making a little box and say, okay, see that area? You can't back any of the mortgages there. And this explains why almost every city in the United States, every major city in the United States is racially segregated almost by default lines. I dropped the map in the chat. So if you're listening right now on podcast, you can start watching us live so that you can follow along with the goodies. But do you see like the parts of Boston? So the largest area, which I didn't know that was redlined, was Roxbury.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense.
I'm sorry, Herb was communicating to me, but no, there we go. And then actually where I live right now in Dorchester, but something else they said that I want to highlight before we go to clip number 2 is Italians, Jews, Irish, they were also kept out of this. They were yellow. So they weren't redlined. I've never heard the term yellow lined.
Yeah.
But
there's no yellow line.
Yeah, well, there are yellow Sharpies and markers.
Yeah.
All right, but anyway. So, and that was true from 1930 to about World War II, so about a decade. And then after World War II, they decided, okay, yeah, we're going to expand it. You're white, you can get all the benefits of the GI Bill, you can get all the benefits of the new society.
Right.
So, but African Americans were still blocked out of that for decades longer. But this is actually only one little part of it. So I want to go check out the exhibit because as clip number 2, I think is going to explain, redlining was actually like the smallest part of what really kept out black home ownership.
Housing segregation.
The second major one was the Federal Housing Administration, which was established in 1934, the year after the Public Works Administration. And the Federal Housing Administration is well known today by many people as an agency that would not insure mortgages for African Americans at redline communities. That was a minor part of what the federal government, what the FHA did in order to segregate metropolitan areas. The most important role of the Federal Housing Administration was it subsidized mass production builders of entire subdivisions, entire suburbs. And it did so with a requirement that no homes be sold to African Americans, and that every home in these subdivisions had a clause in the deed that prohibited resale to African Americans. So these two programs combined worked to segregate metropolitan areas in a way that they otherwise would not have been segregated. The public housing program separated African Americans from integrated neighborhoods. The Federal Housing Administration then subsidized white families to move out of urban areas into suburbs, all white suburbs, where African Americans were prohibited from following.
And in what sense were African Americans prohibited from following whites into the suburbs?
They were prohibited because the developers of these suburbs got bank loans on condition that they sell no homes to African Americans. It was a federal requirement that they get these bank loans only on condition that they not sell to African Americans. And the Federal Housing Administration required that deeds in these homes have what we now refer to as restrictive covenants, prohibitions on resale to African Americans. This was not an implicit program. It was not something that was hidden.
Okay, so we have the redlining. But the second thing that we were just talking about, which I think maybe I knew in the back of my mind, but didn't really fully get it until I re-listened to this interview, and I'm going to get you the author's name. I think it's called The Color Line. I read it like 2 years ago. Actually, it probably didn't even come out 2 years ago, so people now know I'm lying. I read it last year. And what he was just explaining was after World War II, so all of those like Irish and Italian and Jewish families that we were talking about who were formerly yellow-lined throughout Boston, well, they were now given money to just get cheap homes in the suburbs. African Americans were not at all allowed to do this. If you were a single mother, to be honest, you wouldn't have been able to get the credit to do this either. And then obviously indigenous populations, you can't do this. But then the second part is if you were a white family who then bought a home in a suburb, you were denied by law to then sell that or flip it to an African American family. And people actually went to jail because they then sold their homes to people of color.
That sounds unconstitutional.
It's all legal.
You know, and I've heard the term covenant before, but I've always heard it to be like describing like, you know, in the suburbs that everyone moved out to. Oh, you can't have a boat in your yard, like sitting there. You can't like build anything that is considered unsightly for the neighborhood covenant. I didn't know you could have such a racist covenant.
You can. And I mean, so like the point you just made, like that's unconstitutional. The 14th Amendment is what dictates basically everything, where most of how our modern society is built on, it's on the 14th Amendment. But if you just interpret it a certain way, then sure, you can do whatever you want. So, I mean, now today we say that's unconstitutional, but in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, up until I think 1968, 1967, this was all fully legal. And we're now I'm trying to bring up that map so my producer can put it in. But as I was just explaining, and he might get this in the clip 3, this is all the policy until 1968. And then the federal government said, all right, we're going to get rid of this. This is racist. Lauren's getting upset because it's anti-constitutional. So now everyone's allowed to move to the suburbs. And now in this next clip, he's going to explain how that was a complete false promise and why still today we have such massive disparities where it comes to black home ownership.
1940s and 1950s sold for about twice national median income. They were affordable to working class families with an FHA or VA mortgage. African Americans were equally able to afford those homes as whites, but were prohibited from buying them. Today, those homes sell for $300,000, $400,000 at the minimum, 6-8 times national median income. Those homes are now unaffordable to African Americans. So in 1968, we passed the Fair Housing Act that said, in effect, okay, African Americans, you're now free to buy homes in Daly City or Levittown or any of the other suburbs in between. But it's an empty promise because those homes are no longer affordable to the families that could have afforded them when whites were buying into those suburbs and gaining the equity and the wealth that followed from that. They sent their children, the white families sent their children to college with their home equities. They were able to take care of their parents in old age and not depend on their children. They were able to bequeath wealth to their children. None of those advantages accrued to African Americans who, for the most part, were prohibited from buying homes in those suburbs.
Okay. Lauren, does anyone in your family own a home?
Yes.
So same with me, and that is my entire retirement plan.
You plan to retire. Look
Oh,
at
no. So let me rephrase. I never plan to retire.
you.
I will be on this podcast talking to all of you for decades.
Oh, good.
However, and Boston Herald's already yelling at me, so just today, because now I got to cut in sorry. I thought I could hack the Boston Herald by just using my phone, and I swear they were listening when we explained that last week.
Oh, no.
And so, do you know what I did today? I got a Boston Herald subscription. So I'm going to bring that up in just a second because they just blocked me out after listening to me.
Can I have your Boston Herald password?
Oh, yeah, that's for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave me your Hulu.
Yeah,
and
you got my Hulu, I get your Boston Herald. That is such an even trade, right?
It's the nerdiest thing. My God. But basically what his argument was that in 1968, once they lifted the ban and said, yeah, you can't just specifically say you can't sell to black families. But at that point, the cost of homes was so high that for generations, then obviously centuries, if you want to go back to the history of slavery, they didn't have enough wealth to purchase it.
Yeah, and isn't like the net, or what is the like, I'm not sure I remember the term, but the average savings or average like wealth of the average like black person in Boston is like something like, you know, $8 or something compared to like white people who have some other ridiculously disproportionate amount of savings. So, I mean, that's the, you know, I'm sure that redlining had something to do with the lack of ability to get more wealth in the future. But there you go. Yeah, median net worth. That's the word I was looking for.
And that wasn't, Lauren didn't just misspeak. Literally, the median net worth, which is the person in the middle, another way of calculating an average. The median net worth of black families in Boston is $8. That is how much wealth. And as we were just talking about, the reason for that is almost 100% because of denying home ownership. The only reason anyone in the George household, and I like it because my family's listening right now, the only reason is because the Georges are just flush with cash, is because of home ownership. We were able to buy homes, and that is how many middle class families were able to advance their kids into, oh, now we can pay for college. Now you have all these amazing opportunities. Now we're going to be able to leave you a little nest egg that I can retire comfortably on my yacht while podcasting. But the median net worth of $8.
Yeah.
The Herald is still kicking me out because it doesn't believe that I paid them for the 1 month. But do you know how much houses cost in Massachusetts right now?
A lot.
The median is, I believe, $400,000. Just hit it. $400,000 is the median home price.
And that's not Boston, though.
No, God,
that's like all of Massachusetts. You could be talking the Berkshires. You could be talking Worcester. You could be talking.
So that's all 350.
That seems low.
That's all 351 cities and towns.
Right.
All in Massachusetts, finding an average. And so like that includes like Pittsfield, Mass, all the way out west, where homes probably go for like 180 to 240.
Yeah.
As you both look at the alerts I'm getting. So the cost of homes in Massachusetts is obviously skyrocketing.
Yeah, nobody with a net median income of $8 is going to be able to afford that. But a lot of these are like, working families too, with like extreme amount of debt and cost of living. Isn't that what that ends up?
Yes. And also one of the big, and let's just say you hit a luck streak or somebody in your family did something, because obviously there are black families that have more than the $8. $8 is a median. One of the big things that we learned from the financial crisis was that black families are still denied the same loan rates as white families. Regardless, if you took at two people's sheets, their resumes, they both make the same amount of money, they both have the same net worth, they both have this, they both have that, they controlled for 9 different factors, and they still found that at the end of the day, black and Latina families were given worse loans because they were considered more high risk.
Right, like their credit score probably like sunk like so much faster than mine did, even though I made terrible decisions.
And I want to do a history of the credit score because I think it's one of like the most ingenious ways that capitalism gets us to like self-police ourselves, like we're little kids. Like, oh, your score! Look at the like. I worked.
If that's all you have, though.
No, it is. But by giving this arbitrary number, and then they don't make it publicly available, meaning. Like, I can't check your credit score, you can't check mine, but this is another way that banks say, oh, well, we can't tell you why we gave a better loan to this white family, this black family, because then we'd have to show you their credit score, so we can't show you. And so it's their way of, like, skirting around any sort of just obvious racist bigotry.
And landlords can look that up too.
Yes. Have you ever had to like submit it to your landlord, your credit score?
I don't get to rent those kind of places for that exact reason.
Well, when I lived in New York, I had to. And then even on top of that, my father still had to sign as like a co-lease.
That's why your places are a lot nicer than mine.
Hey, that might be it. But no, the credit score is a massive scam. And everyone out there, stop worrying about your number. It's okay. It's all made up BS.
My credit score sucks, and I'm still alive.
Yeah, wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
But all right, because we just talked about how expensive housing is in not just Boston, but well, Massachusetts. We gave a little bit of the history of redlining, the history of segregating the suburbs. So we're going to do a whole episode
And
on
that's one of the
suburbs.
reasons why Boston remains one of the more segregated cities.
Yeah, oh, yeah, still to this day. And I mean,
It was designed that way.
it was designed that way. Like the city of Chicago was like almost like another step beyond redlining, was just physically laid out. Oh, this is something else I learned while researching this segment, was how they used highways to do this.
Right.
They would like purposely construct highways to just split apart the black parts and the white parts. And now I really want to look at 93 and see if I can figure that out.
I already can think of it.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
like
easy.
it's one of those things that like once you give it 10 seconds of thought, you're just like, oh yeah, because on the other side of 93 is that area, and on this side is this. Like a lot of our highway system was designed to reinforce all of these, the redlining and segregation that we still find ourselves in today. And then obviously once you build the highways, you have those physical barriers that aren't as easy as changing the color on a map. But okay, we get the housing.
Right.
Now we need to bring in our savior, Charlie Baker.
Oh, Charlie Baker.
Because Charlie Baker has a plan.
Our economy is growing, our population's changing, but it's expanding. But as we've all discussed, our housing production has simply not kept pace over the past few decades. For Massachusetts to continue to grow its economy, we're going to have to find a way to build more housing. Now, we believe giving municipalities the tools and the incentives to plan that housing, especially in locations that make the most sense around transit and downtowns, so that we can finally see the progress we need to see on an issue that's been stuck in place for almost a generation. And that's why we're here today to announce our administration's new Housing Choice Initiative, which is aimed at producing 135,000 new units of housing by 2025. There are three elements to this initiative: a series of incentives and rewards on new and existing grant programs for communities doing their part to build more housing, expanded and enhanced technical assistance for communities that want to figure out how to get more housing done, and new legislation, which we'll be introducing later today, that makes it easier for cities and towns to adopt zoning that results in housing production. We most certainly respect the role of municipal leaders in shaping their community's future. And with that in mind, we aim to provide tools to local officials rather than mandates, because most communities need to have an opportunity and a way to participate in this initiative that works for them.
Okay, now we first have to talk about the music.
Yeah, was that the world's smallest violin in the background, or what?
I did not put that in there. So I mean, it's all the people that work for these press departments. They were like me, and when I was in my early 20s, and what I mean by that is they just watched The West Wing on a loop. So now, whenever they listen to any politician talk, they think, "Oh, we need a string quartet because this is what leadership."
I can just see like an American flag in the background, like faded.
No, I am not joking. The Chapo Boys, who if you're listening to this, I'm sure you're familiar with, like they did an entire episode just on how Aaron Sorkin just broke the minds of like liberals. Like everyone who staffed the '08 Obama White House was just obsessed with the West Wing. And anyway, that was the music. That was not me. That was not her. That was not Lauren. Charlie Baker outlined 3 parts of his plan. He's been trying to get this passed for 2 years now. The most important thing was the first thing that he said. And one, because he used the argument, so we're going to quickly bring it up again. He said we need to build more housing. And for the real heads that were watching us since the beginning of Renters Radio will know that, so speaking now about Boston, we have so much empty, vacant luxury apartments. It's all speculative housing. It's all hedge funds. It's all billionaires. So speaking for Boston, it's not a lack of housing. It's a lack of affordable housing. Changing those luxury units to affordable would solve most of those issues. But what Charlie Baker's trying to do is make it so it's easier for cities to build. Because right now you have to have a supermajority, 2/3 have to approve it. He wants to lower that so it's only 50%. So now out of all city and towns in Massachusetts, you don't need a 2/3 majority to have any sort of a zoning change or construction. You just need 50%. Which on one level does make sense, unless you then start to think about what the consequences of that will be. Because if it's easier to build in these cities and there are no other restrictions, there's no other considerations, all of these cities and towns are only going to build luxury housing
Right.
because that is the only thing that actually benefits them. And this probably is going to require more time than I want to go into right now, but just focus on that. Cities and towns are not going to vote in low income public housing. There's some of it's there's a racial dynamic. Some of it does make sense in terms of property value. Some of it is a lot about how we fund public education. But cities and towns will not be advocating affordable housing. They will say, "Oh yeah, let's let like a millionaire come here, boost our tax base. Their kids going to a private school anyway. We'll just pocket the money."
Right.
So without having any restrictions on this or any other considerations, making it easier to build is actually going to harm housing production. And that's where I thought I was going to end this clip. I was like, okay, I'll let Charlie Baker talk. All right, now we have him on the record. I don't have to cite it. But then I kept listening to this YouTube thing, and and I'm sorry, they have some asshat who then comes up, and I was like jaw dropped.
He texted me about it.
Because and I gotta get his name again. I'm gonna bring it up when Herb's playing.
Much his jaw dropped.
It was just
I'm
horror
excited.
show. But like you have to really listen, and I'll break it down. All right, Herb, play it. We might
First of all, instead of the traditional approach of simply subsidizing an artificially expensive housing market, the approaches in this bill seek to use market forces to build the right types of products at affordable prices that respond to younger first-time home buyers and downsizing baby boomers. This approach and the strategy the administration is outlining actually uses housing as a tool for greater economic and community development growth throughout the Commonwealth. That makes this a very exciting change in the dialogue of how we approach housing in Massachusetts and what we use housing for other than simply for sheltering people.
Okay. I know the music hit it. I know he used a lot of words that people who aren't like me, who just have read and listened to all this on a loop. Did you get the sense of why what he just said was horrific?
Well, I mean, the last sentence was pretty horrific.
Okay, Herb, can we play it again and I'll like stop at certain points?
Okay.
And just ignore the violence.
First of all, instead of the traditional approach of simply subsidizing an artificially expensive housing market, the approaches in this bill seek to use market forces.
Okay, if you ever hear somebody say we're going to use market forces, fucking run.
Run the other direction, the invisible hand.
Because that means two things. That either means who you're talking about is a complete idiot. And this guy is he's a CEO for like a community development group, I think in the South Shore. I got to get the full title. So if you say market forces, that either means you're a complete idiot, because as we've talked about, and we'll continue to talk about on this program, market forces are always going to be geared towards making money. That's what a market is. You're buying and selling goods at a market. And so what that means is that if you're poor, if you don't have money, if you have $8 of wealth, then guess what? You're not participating in a market because you don't have money. Which means that when these people are trying to plan housing, what he's saying is those people don't exist.
Right.
This is a market. And if you're not buying and selling in the market, then you're just somewhere else. So
right,
again,
it's housing as a commodity, not as
yes,
like an actual thing that people need for shelter.
And he says that at the end, which is like the power's like, I can't believe he just said that. Yeah. Somebody definitely pulled up. He's like, dude, you can't talk like that. That scares people. But if someone ever says again that we need to use market forces, they either are an idiot and have no understanding about how that is, or they are a lizard person. And what they mean is like, oh no, if you're poor, then like you just don't exist because you're not in the market. So like, why should we talk about you?
You do not fit my framework.
Yes,
for the understand
it too much.
And all right, Herb, keep it going. Okay, then he refers to housing as products.
Right.
Again, this is another person who took one class in macroeconomics who just their mind broke of just any physical understanding or realization of how does this impact people. CEO is probably worth millions.
Seek to use market forces to build the right types of products at affordable prices that respond to younger first-time home buyers and downsizing baby boomers. This approach and the strategy the administration is outlining actually uses housing as a tool for greater economic and community development growth throughout the Commonwealth. That makes this a very exciting change in the dialogue of how we approach housing in Massachusetts and what we use housing for, other than simply for sheltering people.
Right. So other than simply a house as, again, you can go the Maslow hierarchy of needs. You need shelter to survive. I work in disaster relief. Every 4 hours you need to have shelter, whether that's clothing or a house, or protection from the environment. So what he's saying is, oh no, we shouldn't just look at it as like a shelter, or God forbid you looked at it as like a home where somebody like feels safe and has physical and mental health benefits that we don't even fully know the full ramifications of a safe, stable home environment. Let's look at this as a way to increase economic. He had some.
He said community growth. I'm not sure he knows what community means.
No, because for him, we are ants in like a farm.
Right.
And it's about like, well, how do we get the ants to carry a 20% more sugar load?
Right.
For whatever sick satisfaction this individual needs to have more economic output of. Again, the people who talk like this are either very dumb, which is possible. It's possible like he's using the words, he sounds, there's a violin in the background, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So he might just be very dumb. And they're just like, oh, people keep giving me money, so I'll keep taking it. Or they are lizard people who, this is not about humans. This is not about any sense of what humanity means. It is just, how do we now look at you like a math equation and tweak it to squeeze as much profit as we can out of you?
And using like one of the basic human necessities to do so.
Yes.
So that's gross.
Yes, it's horrible. and they've been trying to get this passed for 2 years now. It keeps failing, thank God, because if you can't just make it easy to build any housing a community wants, because as we've said before, it is not profitable to give poor people homes.
Right.
It just isn't. Because again, you have to have money to participate in a market. So if you want to have any foundation or direction or policy goal of actually benefiting humans, you have to ignore market forces, because that is irrelevant to this equation, and actually focus on the needs of people. Hashtag socialism. But okay, that was our very long, and I probably went longer than Lauren will yell at me at the break. I might come back with a little thing on my chin too.
Yeah.
But the history of redlining, the history of the FHA, because Ben Carson, who runs HUD, he talks about how any sort of program which might benefit like Black home or Latino home ownership, that's social engineering. And what he's trying to say is that right now what we have is natural. That this was all just the result of nature. Nobody drew a map and connected lines that blocked people. That didn't happen. This is just natural. So the government shouldn't do any programs that benefit people, because that's going to be social engineering. Where in reality, it's the exact opposite.
Right.
It was the direct government policies that drew the lines which dictated where you could live and where that other person couldn't. And any chance to rectify that for them is social engineering. The other is just natural, because they benefited from the system.
It sounds like a whole lot of doublespeak going on in all those clips.
They're all lizard people.
All lizard people.
But again, thankfully this hasn't passed. And hopefully we're going to have rent control, or we're actually going to make public investments in housing so that it's not up to the market to decide.
The last thing we want deciding on this housing policy is the market at this point. We should have known that by now.
But okay, thank you for letting me go off on that.
I actually really enjoyed that. Feel better?
I do.
Okay.
It was very cathartic. But actually now I'm like sad.
Oh.
I know.
Want to get sadder?
Sure.
We can move into the next segment. I'm ready to get right into it.
All right, go right
I don't
ahead.
need a break. I want to talk about something that came out. Well, it's been a long time coming. It's an issue close to my heart. It's an issue close to Herb's heart. Relates to our old home over at WEMF in Cambridge. I'm sure a lot of people watching, listening know what I'm talking about. But this was our old artist space, community, based out of this, I don't know, wicked old building over in Central Square. But it was our home. And what happened was this developer You could call him DiGiorno, but his name's actually DiGiovanni. John DiGiovanni bought it and turned it into office spaces, or they haven't become office spaces yet. But there was a big fight, kicked everybody out, people occupied. This happened a couple summers ago. When was this, Herb? I feel like it's been forever.
3 years.
3 years? My God. But anyway, they've one of the last things that we did in the fight against Giovanni, one of the last things that State Rep Mike Connolly did, some of our friends from Save EMF, Ben Simon, a few other folks got together, and Steve Onderich, shout out to Steve Onderich. We'll have him call in. We got big plans to memorialize WEMF. But anyway, so one of the last things they did was try to get this building designated as a historical landmark due to its architectural and cultural significance, which didn't actually stop any of the bad stuff from happening. We all still got kicked out and had to find a new spot. Ended up here, which is great. But what it did do was prevent John DiGiovanni. It basically was one last sticking it to this developer. And this was like this kind of drawn out fight that we were all following. A bunch of city councilors backed us on it. Quinton Zondervan was one of them. A few others. And the Historical Commission of Cambridge actually took up this process of designating this a historical landmark. And we found out this week that we actually won. It's not really much of a win because we're all here and not there. But it means that instead of turning that building into like a 20-floor office park, he can only keep it to the 3 floors that it was originally built at. He can't change the outside too much. I hope he can't get rid of the orange signage. That'd be pretty fun. There have been a lot of changes at that building anyway. I've seen them put in like new windows and whatnot. We still walk by there all the time. But it's going to prevent his profits on that. Just by so much. 20 floors is a lot more.
Right where it hurts him.
Yeah, we just hit him right in the wallet where it hurts. And the Historical Commission of Cambridge that agreed to designate it a historical landmark, I have a lot of appreciation for them, even though I'm still bitter. I'm going to be honest. It hurts still because I have so many memories there and I'm not there. But it is nice to just kind of like give one final stab before on your way out,
Yeah, it's one good F you.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciate everyone who fought for this, especially Mike Connolly, and for continuing the fight to designate this as a historical landmark so that this particular jerk developer cannot make so much damn money on this property that he took from us.
What's his name? Don Giovanni?
John DiGiovanni.
It's a good Italian boy. I doubt he's good.
We call him a lot of things. He's not that good. His lawyers aren't that great either.
Clearly.
Yeah, there's a few. Do we have phone lines open?
Yes.
Ooh, drop the number.
Yeah, what's the number again?
Bam. Up on the screen.
It is 872. I don't see our number here.
I was going to say, I don't see it on the screen either. Yell it. What's the phone number?
The phone number is 872-810-2125.
If you listen on a podcast right now, you're missing out. You got to watch us live. You can call in.
Yeah. If anybody, I have a lot of EMF friends and Cambridge friends. If anyone feels like giving us a call to talk more about this, we are happy to take that call. If not, we might go to break and then come back with some more shenanigans. But I do appreciate everyone who worked so hard in Cambridge City Council just to get this sort of small victory passed. It will be nice to know that as I walk by WEMF, which I will still continue to do because it's right near the Middle East and a bunch of other things, that I won't see a giant commercial tower. And hopefully somebody falls off the roof. I don't know. We have got a caller who's on the line. Hello? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey,
Hello?
who's this?
Hi, this is Dan Totten.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Lauren?
I'm doing good. How's the show going so far?
It's awesome. I'm really enjoying it. really enjoying hearing you and talk about all this. I'm really enjoying it. I wanted to say one thing on the redlining before
Sure.
I talk about EMF, which is the main reason why I'm calling.
Okay.
But basically, so I grew up in a suburb that's like 4 miles as the crow flies from here. So basically, it's like 20 minutes away. It's very close. My graduating class, which was about 10 years ago, had 360 kids in it. And of those 360 kids, 7 of them were black. And
where was this?
It's in Needham, which
Okay.
is
Okay. That makes
a
sense.
suburb. And on top of that, there's this program called the METCO program, which basically brings children of color, black and Latino, from the city into suburbs like Needham. Basically, any suburb in that area has them. Needham, Wellesley, Newton.
I think
Actually, I'm not sure
Acton-Boxborough
if
has
Newton
them
does.
too.
But yeah, it's all over.
No, yeah, not to cut you off, Dan, but for the people listening who might not know, so like the concept of busing, taking African American kids from one district, bring them to another, and vice versa. This is still like a running program. It is the most successful in the country. This has been used in countless studies for decades to show how much this works, how much changing someone's school environment or just putting them in a different location is beneficial for the child. So, are you saying that was kind of like the only reason that those kids were able to get to your school?
Yeah. Where I was going with that is that I actually know these kids, and so I was able to sort of figure it out that 5 out of the 7 came through METCO. And so that means that there were only 2 black families living in that suburb and in my year.
Right.
Essentially. That had kids in my year. Now of course, there are kids in other years, but that my point is that like it's still like that's segregation. Like it's still segregated, and METCO is great, and we need to expand METCO. I mean, we should be busing like anyway. That's a whole other story. But the point is, the natural state of things is still segregation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our schools are more segregated now in some cities than they were before Brown versus Board of Education passed in the 1950s.
Yeah, it's absurd. Anyway, I mainly wanted to talk about EMF because that's something I've been following pretty closely. And I think the big thing here to remember is that it was the artists that signed the petition, that they petitioned the Historical Commission to try to get this landmarked. And if you look at the report, what's really cool about this process is that when the artists signed this petition and said, "Hey, Historical Commission, we want you to consider whether this building should be landmarked or not," that triggered a year-long period where they had historians actually look into it and really seriously look into it. And they produced a 22-page report, which once I get off the call, I can put in the comments.
I would love to see that.
It's beautiful. And they interviewed Anna Ray, and they interviewed John Glancy.
Nice.
And a few others. And they did a really good job with it. And part of the report was the current use. And so I think what's really neat about this designation is that it's not just for the architectural significance, though of course, it's neat that it's an old factory building and all that, but it's also it's part of its designation comes from the significance of it culturally,
right,
and what it means to the Central Square Cultural District, which is just down the street.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I guess that is I would really like to read that report actually. I haven't seen it yet, but I feel like that would be very nice to read for me and for, considering I probably know a lot of the people that petitioned and have been following it as well. And also that it wasn't really about the building. It was about what happened there. It was about the friends we made there. It was about the community we built there and the art that was made there and the cultural significance really. So definitely send that. I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, and one other thing about the about this situation is to talk about this developer a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because he owns, people say this all the time, but he owns half of Harvard Square.
Right.
I mean, this isn't like, oh, he owns, a triple decker on Mass Ave or something. He owns like the garage, like that big building that's kind of like a mall in Harvard Square where they have like a Newbury Comics and all. He owns that.
Yeah.
He owns the Sinclair building. He owns the parking garage. I mean, it's just absurd how much this guy owns and is capable of developing these big, large-scale projects.
Didn't he currently, like, recently obtain the little newsstand that was like in the middle of?
Did he buy that?
That's what I heard.
No, that's not him. That's the city. The city owns the newsstand.
Oh, okay.
And they're putting this thing called Culture House in there. I don't really know what it is, but that's what's going in there. And the news guy, it's this complicated situation, but he doesn't own that one. But the point is that that he is capable of doing doing a really big project, and I'm not saying that he would have, but now at this point he can't just build it out with 10 stories of office,
right,
or of lab. He can't just build a big lab there, and I think that's a win, because if he were to do that, it would be an even bigger hit to people living in the area in terms of affordability, as commercial development and lab development is really sinister in this whole puzzle.
Yeah, and it's not like MIT isn't already buying all the other buildings there and building labs. So
yeah, well,
there's a lot of other spaces being turned into labs there. So
yeah,
but
anyway, I'm gonna go. I really appreciate the show, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and keep it up. And I'm gonna just hang up. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Drop the link to the report, please. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy, Dan. And,
thank you.
I'm gonna plug it later, but we're having the Bernie Sanders holiday party that you're more than invited to Thursday night.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, check the DSA page. Be good.
Sweet. Looking forward to it. Talk to you later.
All right, take it easy, Dan.
Bye-bye.
I was gonna ask if Dan wanted to reveal who he was, but that's okay.
I think he said who he was.
No, well, I mean, what he does professionally.
I think he is his own profession.
That's true.
Dan Totten is the professional. He knows everything.
All right, how you feeling?
Let's take a break. We can get back to some fun stuff.
Like your buddy?
I mean, we can get back and check in with Rod Weber, maybe.
Okay, let's do it.
If he's around, I don't know, hit him up. If not, we can talk about the recount.
Nah.
Okay.
I'm looking at Herb right now. Like, Herb, do you have any thoughts? Nah, everything went great. It was fine. But
yeah, and I don't know. I'm also gonna plug that I'm gonna continue on the EMF memorabilia pattern for a little bit until I get out of my system. One of those things is going to commence with a WEMF Miss special episode December 23rd, so make sure you tune in if you want to be included, if you want to call in, if you want to pack the studio because you were part of it. Hit me up. It'll be great. We got some confirmed guests, some special people who led a protest in Harvard Square, but I'm not going to reveal their names yet, but you probably know who they are, about saving EMF, and friends of the show. and whatnot. So on that note, it will never be forgotten. It's now officially a historical landmark, and it's a historical landmark in my heart. And we'll continue to stick it to developers and celebrate community of artists here in Boston and Cambridge and Somerville now. So take it easy. We might be back.
All right, guys.
All right, do it.
All right, we are back. Are we back?
Yes, you are.
We are back with Renters Radio. We've had our dinner. We've had our redlining. We've had our rent control. We've had our housing issues. We've had our dinner. Now it's time for dessert. Let's check in with one of the friends of the show, the one, the only Rod Weber. He was up to some major national headline-making shenanigans this weekend at Art Basel. Art Basel? I don't know how to say it. I'm not that rich. But we got some video of some of the shenanigans that went down there. Rod Epstein didn't kill himself. Weber at it again, trolling the masses and bringing the truth to the people. So let's get started. We got that video queued up. Ready to go?
Here we go.
Are we really live?
Yeah.
We're filming it, yeah.
It's spelling correct. It's spelling correct.
Oh, no, we're not going to do that.
You're cutting off. Give it a second. Tell me the letter.
A24.
I didn't copy where. The banana.
I'm sorry. She has an artwork that's actually next to it.
Breaking up where?
You have to really.
D24, the banana booth.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I finish my piece?
Somebody's standing on the wall, so you're going to have to double time it.
Like
Can I introduce myself?
No.
Well, I mean, you've kind of set precedent here.
But it's not an open free fall.
Oh, it's not?
No.
You didn't press charges on David, right?
Why would we?
Oh, okay.
We're not pressing charges on you either. We're just asking you to not damage the artwork that's
Oh,
here.
okay. If that's.
Thank you.
All right. Can I shake your hand?
No.
Okay, so I guess I have to leave.
Can I shake your hand?
I'm Rod. Hi. My name is Epstein didn't kill himself, Weber.
Nice pleasure. Very nice name.
Thank you.
Keep walking. Go that way.
So, some of the folks call me Rod Weber.
Doesn't matter. Keep walking.
But
Keep walking.
I still
Doesn't matter.
say,
Keep walking.
I still
Keep
say,
walking, sir.
we have
Keep
to keep
walking,
walking.
sir.
We
Keep
have to
walking.
keep walking. If we don't keep walking, then what will we do? Oh, it wasn't vandalism. It's art.
No, it's not art, sir. It's not your booth.
She said she's not pressing charges.
They
So
pay a lot of money for that.
no, they set precedent, right? So no one's pressed charges before. I even spoke to her. She said she won't be pressing charges against me. You're welcome to arrest me. Go for it. But they're going to drop the charges, right? Because they invited this.
They did not invite you there, sir.
Certainly they did.
You have some identification on you, sir?
You betcha.
Can I see it, please?
I doubt it. Who are you?
I'm the head of security here.
I'm Rod Weber. Nice to meet
I
you.
don't want to do that, Rod, with your hands like that. All right?
Fair enough.
You can appreciate that.
Oh, sure. I can
Give
appreciate
you a
that.
fist bump, but that's about the extent
All
of
right,
it,
I'm going to give a fist bump to the head of security.
There you go. You want to tell me what your name is?
I just did. Rod Weber.
Rod Weber?
Yeah.
You got an address, Rod?
You bet I do.
Would you mind sharing?
Oh my god.
Oh, this is a great masterclass on how to speak to an authority figure. Good ID? Yep. Can I see it? No. Who are you?
Oh.
Here we go.
Oh my god, dude.
All right. Do you want to give before? Is Rod going to call in?
Yeah, he's gonna call in. Is this video over? Okay. That was hilarious.
Do you want to explain to the people what we just saw?
Yeah, I do. I feel like Rod can do a better job, but does anyone know? I don't know what Art Basel is. I think it's a thing for art for rich people that I'm not invited to. And I guess this weekend it was this big art thing, and somebody, some Italian artist, duct tape a banana to a wall, and then somebody else bought it for $120,000. And that was a big story. And then some performance artist ate it, and that was another big story. And then our good old friend of the show, Rod Weber, shows up and writes on the now blank wall, Epstein didn't kill himself, and caused a major hullabaloo and drew attention to the real issues in this country. So, I got a lot of lulls out of it. I thought I really appreciate him doing this in a space full of rich, pretentious artist people as well.
Which I'm hoping was the point of the banana and the duct tape.
I think there was a troll, and then the troll was on top of another troll, and the best troll was on a troll.
Yeah, that had three different. I mean, that had three different layers with probably money laundering in between 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. One of them was just like kind of a money laundering thing. The other one was just classic performance art mega trolling. So I appreciated that. And like I said, Rod's called into the show multiple times about various issues. So he is a friend of the show. So let's see if he'll call us again. Hit us up, Rod, 872-810-2125. Let's talk about what the heck went on down there.
Down in Miami.
I know, down in Miami.
See, now I do want to look into what this whole art exhibit is.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right.
If you can't pronounce it, I can't pronounce it. So I'm not taking a swing at it. I know my strengths and weaknesses.
It's either Art Basel or Art Basil.
But I just can't believe you can now Google banana duct tape Epstein didn't kill himself.
And that is now a thing.
And that's...
this has been covered by all the major
I'm looking at the Washington Examiner right now. Epstein didn't kill himself. $120,000 duct tape banana art vandalized.
Yeah, but what else do you do with $120,000 duct tape banana stand art?
Again, this is clearly, hey, we need to like watch this money. Just get somebody you know. Oh,
there we go. Rod can tell us what's up.
Yes, and Rod's not going to deny the opportunity. Let's see. Rod, you on?
Hello?
Hey, you there?
Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah, much better than last time. I guess Herb's worked out some of the kinks.
Glad to hear it. Where are you? I mean, you don't have to be that specific, but are you still down there?
I'm in Miami. I just met with my bail bondsman, which was the big thing hanging over my head. But the wacky thing about the Miami system here is it doesn't seem to be like any of the other wonderful states or commonwealths that I've been arrested in. And I've been arrested in at least 4 in the past 4 months.
Yeah, that's true.
4 for 4. All
yeah.
Right. It's not bad.
I have some good luck with that. But so just usually you get some kind of information when you're being released or discharged, and they say when your court date is going to be. Not with Florida, nothing. So I think I'm onto something as to why Florida man memes exist. There's no law and order. Not that I think that law and order is necessarily a good thing, since government's inherently evil. But that's a much longer discussion that we don't necessarily have to get into. And this has nothing to do with location, which is all you're asking me.
Okay, so you're free for now.
Yes.
What do they charge you with?
It's the best charge ever. It's criminal mischief.
Ooh,
mischief.
I like the sound of that. It's like shenanigans.
It is absolutely shenanigans. But so here's the thing. In a lot of the articles that are circulating around, and I've just kind of been sharing most of them willy-nilly because they're hilarious. But just like everything, they're full of disinformation. And while they might be calling it an act of vandalism, we all must keep in mind that lipstick comes off, not maybe necessarily as easily as your children's crayon on the living room walls, but it comes off. Vandalism is defined as the permanent and intentional defacement of something with the purpose of being an asshole. And it is not that. And even the police conceded that it wasn't really vandalism because it was not permanent, which is why they're giving me this ridiculous misdemeanor charge, evidently because that's all they could come up with.
Right.
So Rod, I have 3 leading questions. You can take either one you want. First of all,
okay.
Why did you attend the art show? Can you explain that? The second question is, where did you get the lipstick? And then the third question, and you might need to actually address this at a separate point, is can you explain the Epstein didn't kill himself? Because I know that's what you're known for, but for the people who's going to be listening to this later, can you explain why and how that became your thing?
Well, I hope I'm known for more than the Epstein.
I've only met you briefly. Well, actually, I've never met you in person. I haven't had that pleasure yet. But in my knowledge of your existence, this seems to be a thing with you.
Fair enough.
But that's a later point. Why were you at the art show? Where'd you get the lipstick?
So I'm down in Miami for one of the satellite fairs, which is called the Fridge Art Fair. There's, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 art fairs down here during Art Week, and it's a regular orgy of spray paint cans and graffiti on the sidewalks, the walls, the clouds. Basically, anything that can be painted on is being painted on down here at Art Week. And so, yeah, I was part of one of those satellite fairs. As to, and also, I should add that I was representing Vermin Supreme and Dave Tree, and brought down some of their artwork as well. Do my best to hawk our wares, whether it be in the gallery setting or even just down in what they call Wynwood, which is really the epicenter of the street art scene down here. But so beyond that, in Miami Beach, that's held at the convention center, which is kind of your more traditional gallery setting. And basically what it is, it's the largest gathering. Well, I believe it's the largest gathering, if not one of the top three, but I'm fairly certain the top gathering of art galleries at art fairs in the world. There's literally hundreds of these things with all the quote-unquote top-notch masters like Andy Warhol and his soup cans, which, oh, God, the mastery of that. Oh, it has shaken me to the core. Yeah. Your Modiglianos or your Miros or your, Picasso, whatever you can think of. I mean, all the way down to, more modern stuff like Banksy or Dane or Nicky Peaches, whole 9 yards. So anyhow, so I was down for the satellite fair, and I was just down for doing the art thing in general. So I mean, as far as my, what I did to the Broughton Gallery, that wasn't planned in the least bit. Quite honestly, when I came down here, I knew nothing about this banana exhibit, but it seemed to be the talk of the town, and you can't help but make fun of it because it's so ridiculous. And to me, it just seems like it's a meme doing the stupid things that memes do, and this is why it gets people talking. And from my standpoint, I have a hard time believing that anyone actually really bought it. Quite honestly, it's got to be a damn setup. And so when I smelled that particular rat wandered the room, I thought to myself, okay, so they've gotten David the Tuna to take the thing off the wall and eat it, and they're saying it's an $120,000 item. And afterwards, they say, oh, no, it's not about the physical art, it's an idea. But that goes against well-established modes of commerce going back for centuries within the art world, which is about rarefied objects. And the whole thing that makes like Basquiat or Warhol of importance and valuable, or even someone like a Keith Haring, is because I'm going to take Andy Warhol out of that, but like Keith Haring or Basquiat died young. They have a limited amount of works, and so it increases the value of their works. So it's always been about rarefied objects. So now that they're just saying that it's a certificate of authenticity and that they didn't destroy the actual art because the art is the idea, that goes well-established, modes, going back to censorship. So I'm thinking to myself, bullshit. And the first thought that came to mind was, I'm just going to go in there and spray paint bullshit on the wall. But then, the other problem that I find is that the art world is so insular that certainly the art world itself probably would have responded better to that because it's not political. It would just be calling bullshit as it is. But one of my big problems with the art world at all is they're not making anything of any importance. So, why not bring in a head scratcher or something that will get people thinking about the larger world around them? A thing that is profoundly stupid and also, perhaps one of the most important things of our lifetime. It's hard to know because the government has a long and storied past of lies, deceit, and outright fabrication. We can look to the weapons of mass destruction lies, going back to the false flag of the Native Americans smuggling tea. The Sons of Liberty dressing as the Native Americans to do the tea into the harbor. So, I mean, from the get-go, our country has been about lies, lies, and lies. And I think this is probably just too nuanced for the average Art Basel goer. But I decided that I'd throw one of those monkey wrenches into the works nonetheless and see if it would ring any bells. I guess it did. So
Yeah,
that's
sounds
a
like
good
you
thing.
rang a lot of bells.
I was gonna say, this might be the first time in months that I've seen Epstein's name listed for some of the top national publications. So you definitely got it back out there. And I asked Lauren this and we showed the video of your arrest. I'm not sure if you're able to see it before you called in. But can you explain why did you take on the mantle of Epstein didn't kill himself? Is this just like as you were saying, a way of like piercing a veil to kind of expose deeper hypocrisy and lies, or is this like an actual issue? Are you very invested in the whole Epstein larger web, or is this just more of a medium that you used not to troll people, but to actually highlight what is a very important point of a much larger deception which is going on?
Okay, so there is a much larger deception going on. So let me say first and foremost that I'm a man of empirical evidence. When people ask me what I believe, I say that belief is for religious zealots and child molester priests. I'm not about that sort of thing. I need empirical evidence that can be based upon the best evidence available at any given time. The problem with that, if anyone is familiar at all with the government, again, as I said, they have a long history of lying, whether it's Operation Northwoods, Building 7 and 9/11, or JFK, or any of these things. I don't want to spend all night on these various conspiracy investigations, but there's provable evidence for all kinds of things that are wildly fishy about what the American government's been doing. So that being said, it is. I like that it's a meme to get people thinking about those issues in general. If it can open the conversation to me talking about these things, I can point out, hey, yeah, you ever hear of Building 7? And a lot of people haven't. And so it's like, well, there were 2 airplanes that crashed on 9/11 in the city, and 3 towers fell. Did you know that? And, it seems like 90% of the people out there don't even seem aware of these basic facts about what happened on that day.
Or it's like faux pas to like acknowledge it.
I mean, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to go down the 9/11 well, but what you are saying is absolutely correct. And Tower 7 is not mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report, which was like oddly published at like Barnes and Noble. I remember seeing that later on when I was in high school. But just staying on the Epstein thing, is that like something that you've looked a lot into? Because I was talking to Lauren, and if you want to do an Epstein episode as like a fun break, because I can go off on that. I've actually been following that pretty closely, especially his ties with the CIA and his ranch in Nevada. So is that like a specific thing that you know a lot about or want to talk about? Or again, is this more used as like a medium as part of your art to like, expose a larger hypocrisy?
I'll be straight up with you. There's only so much time in the day to investigate every horrible thing that our government or powerful men related to our government have done. So I'm not the expert there. If you want to talk to the expert, you got to talk to Derek Bros from the Consciousness Resistance. He's got a channel on YouTube, and he made a documentary about that before Epstein went into jail and died and all that stuff. He's the guy that you should really talk to.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I could certainly talk about it to a degree, but as you were saying, it is for me at least. It was the meme that was going around at the time when I went to register to get on the ballot to run as president in New Hampshire. There, obviously, it's a satirical campaign. But so I just yeah, it's something to get people's minds thinking.
So
That's
basically, Rod Webber is the zeitgeist. Okay, he's just got his finger on the pulse of the memes and the mimetic warfare going on. So where was Tree during all this? Where was Dave Tree? Was he there?
No, he's up here.
Dave Tree is up there. He just did
Okay.
an art show at New Alliance at the
I
same
know.
time.
I just saw him. That's why I was like, how did he get down
I
there
was
so
gonna say
fast?
we were drinking with him like 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I was like, what? But his art was down there with you.
Yes, exactly. That was
Okay.
it. I did not physically bring Dave and Vermin, although that would have been fun.
Yeah, no, I was
For sure.
wondering. That would have been fun. So
Yeah,
is
Vermin.
it? Sorry, can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me? It's
Sorry.
chopping.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it Art? So it's Art Basel?
Yes.
Been saying it wrong the whole time. What was the what were they like over there? I'm just really curious about what the like regular people and the reaction that you saw. I guess they're not regular people, right? But like, what were they like?
Do you mean Art Basel in general, or just the people that were watching what I was doing?
No, the art. Well, both, I guess. But the I guess the people going to Art Basel that you witnessed.
Well, I mean, the thing about Art Basel, or which is it's kind of the king or queen of all the art fairs, if you will. But generally speaking, the bigger ones are inhabited with people that have pocketbooks, which are way too big for their own good. And by and large, when I got to say like the New York ones, which I'm more likely to do just because they're close to Boston. Talk, and you feel there's like this sexual dynamic where there's these men who have worked in the banks for all their lives in New York City, and they've got piles of money and credit cards, and a trophy wife who's had like too many plastic surgeries and doesn't ever work, and basically just goes furniture shopping for painting. And it's just like give me the credit card and let's buy this Banksy, let's buy this and that. And to a second degree, I think whoever the breadwinner there is using it as an investment, because you don't want to have, if you're doing all your money laundering schemes as all the millionaires do, you don't want to have too much cash because that's what they'll come after.
Right.
But if you have investments and paintings and fancy cars, those are assets that are harder to take away.
So I really would have liked to see your art be purchased there. Then I feel like if I was a rich banker and witnessed that, I would have loved to drop $120,000 on the Epstein didn't kill himself lipstick.
I mean, I'm guessing the harder part is having the network to get your exhibit there, because once your exhibit is there, now you got that blue check mark. And now you're going to get the housewife.
Did anyone offer to buy it? Has anyone reached out to you, like really appreciating your work?
Well, first of all, fuck the blue check mark, because I don't need to appeal to anyone's authority. Secondly, I sold a bunch of stuff, but I'm selling them at working man prices, and I've basically said, name your price, any price, and I sincerely mean that. And some people just take, and I'm fine with that too. As far as the big piece that I did at the Broughton Gallery, I have reached out to them to ask for it back, or in lieu of that, they could act as my agent, and maybe we could sell it to starving children in Ethiopia or something. But anyhow, they haven't gotten back to me. Of course, that would be the ultimate silliness coup, which because really, if you're going to get into mimetic warfare. It is just a coup of silliness. You can only fight stupid with more stupid. And again, it's profound stupidity versus that which may be one of the more important things in our lifetime. So you never know.
Have you been getting a lot of press? I mean, obviously your name's out there. Again, you're on national headlines right now. Have people been trying to contact you, of like trying to get you to interview? Obviously, thank you for being our most devoted fan to always calling to hear. But I'm just curious, have like other publications, like more national outlets, have reached out to you to try to do interviews?
Yeah, so obviously I got arrested yesterday. They let me out at about 5 a.m. and I've aside from cleaning up at the fair today, I've basically been doing interviews all day. Everything from like your local news affiliate. Hey, it's WSFM, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. All the way to Rolling Stone, to the Washington Post. I'll feel like I'm bragging if I list any more, but you get the idea.
Have you been listed as a headline that starts with? I guess you're not really Florida man.
I was gonna say, dude, chill in Miami for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
ride this high mark. You can get into some pretty good parties, probably.
I could do that. That's not necessarily my reason for getting into these things. I'd rather raise the consciousness than raise my alcohol blood level. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely stuff still going on in Wynwood, and Vermin wants me to meet up with him this Friday for a big event that's going on in Tennessee. And so I figure if I take a 2-day drive up there, I could leave, I guess, Wednesday. And so I don't know, maybe I'll just check out some more Wynwood stuff tomorrow. And
do you have to go to court?
Yeah. Oh, well, so that's the other fun thing, as I was trying to say at the beginning. Florida has given me no specifications on what I need to do. So I just spoke to my bail bondsman right before I talked to you guys, and he said, yeah, that's just how they do it here. As long as your address is right and the phone number is right, they'll let you know when it's time to know, or they might send something to me. And that just seems totally backward and it just makes it difficult for people, really. So, I mean, especially when it doesn't seem like the punishment could be any greater than what my bail was, which was $1,000.
Jeez.
Yes, which is a horrifying amount for something so piddly, really, in my estimation. But
That's a lot.
Yeah, the mischief. But to answer your second question, I bought the makeup at CVS.
Oh, what brand is it?
They confiscated and destroyed my property, which go against my.
I was
right?
literally gonna go out tomorrow and buy whatever Maybelline shade of red lipstick you happen to get with the CVS coupon just to wear it. You're like, this is the Epstein red.
Well, I could go back and find it. I'm sure it wasn't one of the CVS specials. Like, actually, I wanted one that was the right size, that wouldn't look too long, that looked like something you fit in your pocket, and I could absolutely identify it if I saw it again.
Okay.
So
well, we'll have to look into that. I'm extremely curious, and I'm in the market for some new makeup myself, so I might want to get the shade of Epstein red for this Christmas.
You've got to remember, as much as I might not come across as such, but I did go to art school, and I do have an eye for such things, so I'm sure I could find it again.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, let us know. But always appreciate you calling in. Thank you.
I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't say. I dropped out of art school, man. I dropped out.
Hey, I mean, you're on national headlines right now, so you clearly
who needs
picked up
art
something.
School?
It's too weird. It was too weird, man. You know what it was? It was too pretentious.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. That it really was about, can we make the edges on the cut of the mat perfect and the presentation perfect, and people were making all kinds of meaningless things that just didn't really strike my fancy, and so screw all that, and so I dropped out.
Yeah.
I'm sure much to my parents' chagrin, but whatever.
Well, I mean, look where you are today. You're making national headlines with meaningful political art. So, I mean, this is some Adbuster stuff right here.
I guess I don't. It shouldn't be about that, though. I mean, I honestly, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, though. I hear what you're saying, and what I'd really like to see is for them to reopen the Epstein case. I'd like to see 9/11 be properly investigated, as well as JFK. But we know these things aren't going to happen, So in a lot of ways, I find myself at the end of the day saying, we're doomed. We're doomed. But there's two ways of looking at it. Like you can say like we're doomed and frowny face, or we're doomed. Like let's make some crazy hard and woohoo.
We're doomed. Nothing matters. Let's at least have fun and try to do the best we can.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's that's kind of where. Yeah.
I feel that. Well, will you be back up for Christmas?
Yeah, well, I have to do another court case in New York State for my last arrest. I have to, after I do Nashville, I got to be there. So I think, yeah, logically, I'll be around for Christmas.
Okay, well, just keep us posted about what you do next, I definitely, I had a rough weekend, so I definitely got a lot of laughs and appreciation out of this major shenanigans. Oh, I don't know, just I fell on my chin. It's icy up here. It's okay, I lived. But it was definitely scrolling through Facebook this morning or last night and seeing all that was I'm happy to see somebody's out there fighting the meme wars when I'm not always capable of it. So
someone has to.
Yeah, you're fighting the wars for the people.
I'm sorry about your chin.
It's okay. Thank you though. I much appreciate it. And I appreciate you calling in. We got some firsthand scoop on this national story, and we're gonna have you in, man. I keep saying that. I mean it though.
Yeah, sure.
When you come back to town, we'll do this. It'll be great.
Yeah, you guys are like my go-to place for just chitting and chatting. There's no pressure here. None of this Rolling Stone business.
Yeah, right. Were they really?
We can just keep it real.
Yeah, we keep it real here. This was the special dessert part of the episode. We're gonna hang up now. We got to do a few plugs for some various things. But good to talk to you. I hope everything goes well on your journeys back.
Yeah. Glad you made bail. Take it easy, Rob.
All right, take it easy, boy.
Bye.
Yeah, I got to figure out. Well, I'm curious what he would want to, if he wanted to come in studio, what would he want to talk about?
I don't know, probably whatever he wants. But it's always a good time.
I want a topic identified. You want to do conspiracy?
You want a syllabus?
Yeah. I want a whole agenda. I mean, we can do like 10-minute rounds of like conspiracy theories.
We could. You like planning.
I love planning. It's the funnest thing in the world.
Evan loves plans. I love winging it.
It's all about structure.
Speaking of winging it, what are we doing this week?
All right, I have 2 plugs.
Okay.
So the first, I alluded to it earlier, this Thursday night, if you want to get a drink with me, trying to get Lauren to come, looking over at Herb, seeing what Herb's doing on Thursday night. So DSA is having a Bernie holiday party. It's at, oh God, just listed the address. Dos Diablos. It's 50 Gainsborough Street in Boston. I'm going to be there probably, unfortunately, from like 5:30 to 11. You don't have to stay that long.
I might show up around 8:30.
There we go. That's a good time.
Yeah.
I have to go because I have to support the team. But we'll be doing a fundraiser for Bernie Sanders. There's going to be some newly elected politicians swinging by, making speeches. It's also a victory lap for our electoral team and all the hard work that we put in for this year. Already planning for next. So if you want to come by, grab a drink with Boston DSA Thursday night, I'll be there basically for 6 or 7 hours.
Everyone's going to be there.
All the cool kids.
Including you.
Oh, of course. Cool kids plus me. 50 Gainsborough Street, Dos Diablos in Boston. All right, that's number 1. You want me to do my second one? Or do you want to?
Plug number 2.
All right, plug number 2. So that's the fun stuff. But this Saturday, there's actually a very important event. And there's going to be a rally and march against the Suffolk Downs development. So we're going to have somebody probably call in from City Life to speak more about this. All you need to know, there's a Texas billionaire who's trying to create what will essentially be another whole neighborhood within Boston and East Boston. So this community group, they fought against having the casino in Suffolk Downs. They won. They fought against Amazon building their second headquarters here. They won. Now this Texas billionaire is trying to basically create his own like mini city. It's gonna be 40,000 like units, homes. This is the largest development since the entire reconstruction of the seaport area. And so if you want to make sure that this whole new neighborhood of Boston is actually affordable, it actually doesn't create even more displacement, it's going to have ripple effects in the entire community. There's a massive rally, 12 p.m., meeting at Liberty Plaza Park. Just go on Facebook, type in Rally and March Suffolk Downs. I will be there. DSA will be there. Every City Life will be there. Right to the City will be there. Dorchester Not For Sale will be there. Every community group in Boston is going to be at this event. So if you want to join in solidarity and actually fight, I would love to see 1,000 people show up to really demonstrate just the amount that we're not going to let another whole neighborhood be created solely for luxury development hedge fund Texas billionaires.
I'm here for that.
So that's at noon that Saturday. I will be there. There's a DSA event. After that, I have to go to. This is the biggest thing to show support that we want Suffolk Downs to be what we want it to be, not some random cowboy billionaire.
Yeah, I hate cowboy billionaires. Look what they've done to this country.
Oh, they're the worst type because they have the affect of like a middle class. Like, nah, man, I just made my horse.
You want to have a beer with me?
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy out your entire neighborhood and turn it into luxury condos.
For no reason.
Yeah, well, for money.
All right, Bernie Sanders Thursday night, drinking and partying. Saturday,
it's
marching
Bernie
against.
Thursdays.
Oh, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you got?
Do I have plugs? What am I plugging, Herb? Do you've got plugs? I don't know if I have plugs. Basically that. Bernie Thursdays I'm pretty excited about. WEMF Miss episode, December 23rd. Special guest, still secret, but confirmed. So stay tuned for that. And
I almost gave him away when you said it, so I'm glad you said secret.
Yeah, no, it's important to keep the audience on their toes.
There we go.
What you got, Herb?
I got a plug.
What's going on?
Tuesday nights. Over at Union Tavern, that is correct. We got an open mic going on. Come and join us if you want to play your song. If you want to listen to some songs, just come on over. There's cold beer and good music. Union Tavern, Tuesday nights. Charles Rivers open mic.
Bam.
Union Tavern, formerly known as PA's, located right next to Gentrification Square, also known as Bow Market here in Somerville, Massachusetts. Come one, come all. Bring your guitar. Bring your wallet, and let's have a good time. That's all I got. I don't know what else is going on. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
No, I gave the two most important events.
Yeah, for you.
Actually, I'm not, because everyone's right now trying to squeeze in a lot of stuff. Act on Mass is having a fundraiser. If you want to quickly look onto that on Facebook on Wednesday night, I'm going to try to swing by. I have so much actually real work stuff, which I don't like doing. I really just like my social.
Oh, we got Call to Arts on Wednesday. If anyone's an artist that hates gentrification, they can come by the secret New Alliance location next to the Market Basket.
Every group's trying to do their event this week.
I know. That's right before the holiday party, though. I might have to just get real strong and just
keep pounding that cough syrup.
Keep pounding that cough syrup and that beer. What else do I got? I think that's it for now.
All
right, we'll be back next week. We got Lee Nave Jr. We're going to talk Austin Brighton. We're going to talk rent control. We're going to talk about the future. This has been Lauren Pespiza.
And Evan George.
And we're here with Renters Radio Boston. Have a good night, people.
Bye-bye.